Hey guys, today we're going to dive into an important yet overlooked aspect of movement, and that is shoulder stability. Now, it's not just about Wing Chun or martial arts. Actually, it's important for everyone that wants to have a healthy shoulder and healthy movement. Now, in Wing Chun, we call this elbow force or shoulder power. It enables us to be able to utilize our shoulder to produce enormous yet effortless power, as you'll see in the upcoming videos. So it's not about using brute force, but rather it's about setting the shoulder and activating it in such a way that we are able to tap into the body's power. So first we'll look at some examples of correct shoulder mobility or stability, and then we'll contrast that with some issues that we may have, in particular with Wing Chun movements. And to bring this to life, we're going to have a look at a lot of videos from my teacher, Grandmaster 𝐂𝐡𝐮, who was 𝐒𝐫𝐲's third student and one of the longest serving students of 𝐒𝐫𝐲 in Hong Kong. So let's dive straight in, and hopefully by the end you'll see why shoulder stability, or elbow force as we call it, it's not just theory, but it's something that's very real, something that's very tangible, and hopefully you'll have the eyes for it, and it'll be a lot clearer to you by the end of the video. So as we dive straight in, so here we have, this is what we can call scapular winging. So we can see the instability in the shoulder where the scapula at the back is winging out compared to this. So what we're looking for a stable shoulder is this kind of flat looking scapula from the back. We'll have a look at the ball joints later on in action, but this area is very important for creating that stability in the entire shoulder girdle. So this is the contrast. So in this video, and this is a demonstration Master Choi, sorry about that. This is a demonstration that he would do to highlight this this aspect of shoulder stability, and where we are clamping him. So this guy Albert is clamping him by pushing with one arm here and pushing one arm there. So basically, effectively squeezing his shoulders together to try to compress the shoulders. And as we will see, so it's relatively difficult to see, especially in this video from this angle. He's wearing a, he's wearing a jumper as well. But when we would feel it, we would feel that, like, from each side, from left and right, the area would expand like 0.5 centimeter. So it was a tangible expansion that he would get in the shoulders, and it wasn't just using the muscles here to press the arms out. It's actually happening from inside. It's happening from the whole rib sort of decompresses, and especially the scapula in the back is what's opening up. It's a lot. This first example is a lot easier said than done. So he said, yeah, he said, so if we look at that again, he said, what you guys are doing is you're just doing it locally. And then he says, I'm doing it more from inside. So from the center, it expands out. But again, this has got to do with the scapular control, which we'll see. So this is ultimately, as I said, yeah, and that's what Albert's telling his students. So we have a look here. So here he's just demonstrating a very slow movement and is showing that there's hardly anything happening in the shoulders. We'll go back to that one. There's hardly any sort of, you don't see much happening at the shoulders at all as he's producing force and he's moving his arm up. He's doing it slowly. So when we can have this stability back here, and then we're able to retain that stability and rotate the ball joint here to move this bone, the humerus, as he will demonstrate later on, you'll see the amount of power that can be achieved without. So you can see here. Now this move is extremely difficult to do. Look at the angle on the arm here. And just have a look at, so again, this video is going to be mainly about the shoulders. There's a lot going on. So To be able to stabilize the shoulder, this area is directly related to the ribs and also the spine, in particular the thoracic spine, so the mid back here. So when he was trying to set our shoulders, especially help us relax the shoulder blade, he would go, and you would have seen on our channel, on the Mindful Wing Chun YouTube channel, you would have seen a lot of videos. There's over 100 videos, and at least 20-30 of them you'll see where he's adjusting our spine or the student's spine in this area to be able to elicit an open condition in the scapula there. But have a look at, and you can try this, look at the angle that I've got on him, and have a look at what happens to my body. So it's not that because if he's pressing here with this angle, because I've got very good leverage on him here, right? If you usually what will happen is when people push down here, if there's instability in the shoulder, lack of connectivity of the arm and body, then the shoulder will just raise up, and you wouldn't be able to connect produce the power coming from the body, from the mass, out of the elbow. But in this case, see, he's demonstrating that. So even if I lean down like that, it doesn't work. No, that was quite ridiculous. This one was taken in 1991, and is showing how. So here he's demonstrating the front as well has to be. So it's not just the back. So here, I mean, this is about the shoulder, which you can't separate the shoulder, as I said, from the rib cage, from the front area as well. So here he was demonstrating the importance of expanding the front as well. So opening, relaxing, and that's why he was getting the guy to touch his pecs to show that his pecs are relaxed. It's not like you're using brute force with your lats to open up, or using your deltoid muscles to push out, or with your chest or anything like that. So whether the elbow is moving in or out or up or down, we want it to be open like this. And notice his thoracic spine as he's doing that. Yeah, you see, even if the elbow comes in, so that's in Wing Chun we call that movement of 𝐵𝐸𝐴, where it's quite unique. In a lot of other forms of internal Kung Fu, people don't bring their elbows in that close. Usually they want to stand out there. If you're in a position where your elbows are further out like this, then it is easier to open the scapula at the back and keep this area open. But the more obviously you bring your elbow in, the more naturally people get the compression in the front. This area starts to tighten up, and the scapula at the back starts to round or flare, and sort of. So we want the scapula to be having a healthy glide on the rib cage, but we want it to stay flush. We don't want it to flare out. Now this guy in this next video, he's a friend of mine. His name is Chris. His shoulders was in very, very good condition. Like compared to that, he's one of the guys that used to train with us back in the day. He arrived around 2 years after I did to Hong Kong. So I think he arrived in around 2007. And he trained with 𝐂𝐡𝐮 𝐒𝐡𝐻 till the end, just like I did. Unfortunately, he stopped practicing now. But his shoulder, you can see what happens here. He's asking her to push in, and did you see the instability that was happening? So you see here, this is what I was saying. He goes straight to the thoracic spine. We need to decompress up here. And then he's guiding him to, he's saying, relax out, relax out. So this area is a bit more stable now, but it looks like it's not coming through the ball joint yet. So you see, he has to go back. You see, he starts. Now, some people, when we were training with him, some people were not able to, like, even if he would try to adjust their thoracic spine, he wasn't able to get much movement. It was like a ossification almost, like a lack of movement in that area in the spine. Of course, we can get that anywhere in the body, but especially around the curves of the spine, thoracic spine, this posture being one of the common ones, sort of that kyphosis posture. So sometimes he would try to adjust people's thoracic spine, and they wouldn't have any movement. For them, he would just go and get some relaxation and release in the ball joint because they weren't able to relax the back. But for Chris, because his shoulders, his spine also was very relaxed. He could go work with him there, which would give him a lot more control of the entire girdle rather than the ball joint. So I don't know if you guys can see or not, but now there is an expanded quality in the back here. But what she's saying is she's not feeling it come through the ball joint. So once this opens up, once the thoracic opens up, scapula opens up, we still have to get it out of the ball joint for there to be elbow force. And then if it's forearm on forearm contact, or if you're striking, then of course you have to get it through past the other joints, the elbow joint and the wrist joint and etc. Now look at the stability here as he's moving it. So have a look at his back. So he was saying, you're pulling me and I'm pulling you. We're both standing here, we're pulling each other. Why is it that when I turn my body, when I turn my center, that you fly over there? You know, he said, why is it that that's happening? Of course, there's a lot of stuff going on, but as I said, this video is about shoulder stability. I can make other videos to talk about it, the spine, the rib cage, the pelvis, and even the feet. But basically, we want the body to be one interconnected unit, and for it to work as one interconnected elastic unit using the fascial system. Once we can do that, then we can access the center of mass. Then we can access at higher levels energy. Let's have a look at that, because this is a good angle of his back. Have a look at how flat this back stays. Now, okay, this is a bit off subject, but did you see that the second one was slightly better than the first one for Master Choi? No one's perfect. He was, you know, none of us, even until now, none of us are close to the level he was as an old man, let alone when he was younger. But when we look at objectively, you know, no one's perfect. And so here we can see in the first one, the shoulder was very nice. Would you agree, if we watch again, that there was a little bit of force leaking at the hip area here on his right leg relative to the second one? The second one, the force didn't leak here. I didn't see much leak of force, but have a look at the first one. Even though it's still very good. Have a look at here. A little bit of force leaked into here. Compare this to the second one. This was much better. The second one was less of a leak. You know, so we can start to see. So this is from single sticking out. He's saying not this not force, not collapsing the shoulder area, not this, not lifting. Unfortunately, this is something a lot of people do in Wing Chun, where they lift their shoulders up. Rotator cuff injuries and shoulder injuries are very, very common in Wing Chun. People doing �qi 𝐲. The main reason being people compress the joint, they lose shoulder stability like this. Imagine like this, if this guy latches his arm down compared to this. You can see the effortlessness, how he's just riding the force. Have a look. It's just effortless, riding the force up. And of course, then you can add a pivot. This is a good one also to look at the open condition. If I stop here, have a look at the open condition. We can't see the scapula. There's other videos which we'll see the back, but this is a good view to see the front of how open this area is. This area, his thoracic spine, his whole spine in general, but we're looking at the upper body. His rib cage is, you know, he doesn't have that. He doesn't have this kind of look, kyphosis, but it's also not like this, right? So we want, again, that openness, and it's got that openness all the way. You can see out his fingertips as well. And it's showing here now, once you can do that, you can move whichever way. You can pivot this way, you can pivot the other way. There, you can see the back now, how open this is.
Probably enough just enough so it doesn't collapse.
Yeah, shoulder stability is what he's doing in the level that he's doing it. It's quite challenging, guys. And the idea is to, so here he's not using bouncing off force. He's not using, and you'll see later on, he'll demonstrate different types of forces. He's not moving his body much. Here he's just showing basic biomechanical joint rotation and scapular shoulder girdle, basically mobility and elbow force, but he's showing it in a biomechanical way rather than putting energy through or putting his mass through or anything like that. But have a look. Have a look at the expansion that he gets in this area. It's not a push. It's different to a push. You can see how it's expanding out. Yeah, see that? Now, usually when people do this, what he was just showing, I mean, he's just, again, biomechanically demonstrating the movement. Usually when people do that, their scapula will start to wing out rather than staying flush and free moving and connected to the rib cage. And because if, again, as I said, if there is a scapular winging, or if there is a disconnection, if there is a leak of force happening at the shoulder, actually anywhere in the body, but here we're talking about the shoulders, then we lose connectivity between the shoulder and the body, and therefore we won't be able to get power. The force will leak at that area. So here he's now adding a little bit of speed now. Have a look. Yeah, have a look at the bouncing force that he gets, whether it's a shoulder or elbow joint. So there he was demonstrating, I'll move the shoulder first, then the elbow. See, shoulder first, then the elbow, now both together, shoulder and elbow. Believe me guys, if you're at the end of these movements, it's hard to believe, you know, but people that have the eye for it, and hopefully you can see now what's happening just at the shoulders, at least you can see the open condition, how the force doesn't bounce back in this area. Have a look. And the less force, that second one was better than the first one, the less force bounces back to his body means the more force is coming out of his body into the object, into the opponent or the object. Have a look how he just taps it. Look at that tap. You can see that power. And of course now you can see how he can accelerate, right? How relaxed it is, and how that, yeah, you can sort of accelerate out from there. Try to see if you can see the relaxation, the amount of effort he's using. Try to sense, look at the relaxation. He said that was wrong. He said not that, but this. So relaxed, effortless. Okay, now here, this is Tony. Tony, actually, this is Albert, Tony. These guys are some of the best, according to him himself, some of the best practitioners, two of the best practitioners in Australia. Tony was, they're both extremely powerful, very good teachers as well. Tony's really relaxed, really relaxed. Now in this video, and there'll be videos of me later on of showing contrast between what I'm doing and what 𝐂𝐡𝐮 is doing. And this is 2002, by the way, so this is 23 years ago. But what he's saying, that even though Tony's relaxing, he's sort of resting the shoulder girdle, and resting the elbow, and sort of in a somewhat a floppy way, resting the arm onto the contact point. And he's saying that's not the kind of openness that I'm talking about. It's not a resting down. It's a conscious, mindful opening of the shoulder girdle area. And you'll see he'll demonstrate. Yeah, he said, so as Albert was saying, he said, you're leaning your body into, it's more resting. He was resting, yeah, and there was a bit of a lean, side lean into it. So of course, whenever we rest, you know, this is a misconception people may have about relaxation. In all internal Kung Fu, there is this word song, fong song, song. Song means to release, to let go, relaxed. And this is a misconception that people think it's like a resting feeling. If I like rest my arm like this, then there's that relaxation there. That's floppy relaxation. That's mindless relaxation. That's not the type of relaxation we talk about. where it's like sort of loose like this and you whip the force out. It's not like that. It's very much the mind infuses the body, and with your intention you actually expand, decompress, open up the joints consciously. So there's a different, many people use the word relax, but it means different things. Yeah, so there he showed the difference between just resting, leaning to the side. So not like this is floppy relaxation. Even when he's doing floppy relaxation, his shoulder's still very stable, but it's floppy. Now this is active. You see how it affected Albert's body straight away. Now, the further the hand is from the body, so here the arm is very straight. The further the arm is, the more difficult it is to keep the shoulder stable. This not fake, guys. This guy, Big Mark, a good friend of mine, and this guy is like he's like a Viking, nicest guy. He's a gentle giant. Well, if he's not angry, but he's this time 110 kilos, I think, 105 kilos of just muscle. Very good fighter, great martial artist. It's not BS what you're seeing here. Now look at this. This is a good still shot where his shoulder has risen up. A lot of people in Wing Chun or in Kung Fu, they say shoulder shouldn't come up. Like they say, when you press down, shoulder shouldn't lift up. Now, the shoulder, if the shoulder is lifting up because the force is bouncing back to this area and is causing instability and lifting the shoulder up and causing instability and disconnection to the body, then yes, that shouldn't happen. But we obviously, everybody can shrug their shoulders. You have mobility in your shoulder area, in an up and down, forward, back, and round. You have that kind of mobility in the scapula, up, down, side to side. So mobility is fine as long as it stays connected to the body. So in this still shot here, if Big Mark lifts 𝐂𝐡𝐮 arm up and 𝐂𝐡𝐮 loses connectivity at the shoulders or at anywhere, I mean, if he presses down at the contact point and tenses his triceps, then that will have a rebound force and eventually cause instability in the shoulder anyway. So if there's a blockage or a leakage of force anywhere from the contact point all the way through to his center or to his feet, then there will be problem. But talking about the shoulder, let's have a look. Even though his shoulder is moving up, let's see if the force leaks into his body or if it bounces back to Mark's body. And that's quite clear to see. I think he does it again a bit faster in a second. Let's have a look again. Now for this footage, guys, you can go back some of these. I recommend you go back and slow them down, some of them, and watch them. Yeah, I mean, there was no leak back to his body, right? So there you can have shoulder move. You can keep the shoulder stable, obviously, and for it to move up and down. He said this movement straight out of 𝐶 𝐓𝐽, the first form of Wing Chun. Yeah. Yeah. Not bad for an old man. Okay, so here's Albert again. Now Albert, you can see his shoulder, his scapula is very stable. It's quite clear to see his scapula is stable. However, what you'll see in this video, I mean, because his scapula is stable, he would be able to just, I mean, he is extremely powerful. I think Albert's around 70. He must be mid-70s now. Last time I met him in Hong Kong a couple of years ago, still a powerhouse, really powerful, really powerful. So, but what he's demonstrating here, what 𝐂𝐡𝐮 is highlighting here is, even though he's got stability, that there is the open condition, he's gonna facilitate a more open and loose condition in the joint. So we don't want just stability. The type of stability that we're talking about with Wing Chun and with, I think, all internal forms of Kung Fu, stability must come hand in hand with mobility, with ability to mobilize. So it's not just holding it down tight. No, it's got to be stable, but it's got to be free moving, especially under pressure. And this is what we mean by the relaxation. So there's an open condition. Again, there's an elastic feeling. There's like we get a sense, and the opponent will feel the sense of an elastic force rather than a rigid aligned force. And this is, again, because we're tapping into the fascial system. These are all prerequisites to being able to mobilize energy. We call that Nimlik in 𝐶𝐻 Wing Chun. Other arts call it Qi or Hei in Cantonese, or Qi in Mandarin. So let's have a look. See, you can see there was a bit of a blockage here. That's why when 𝐶𝐻 is pushing in, even though 𝐵𝐵𝐷 doesn't bounce back, but you can see his shoulder cannot mobilize. There's no mobility, even though there's stability. See, when he pushes in, actually there was a bit of instability there when he pushed in. Now, he's just getting him to, he said, don't lean to the side, stay upright. He opened his ball joint. He said, aim at me while you keep that open. Relax. He's getting him to relax even the elbow joint. Keep open that, expand that. Okay, now you can see his force is not entering. And his scapula is staying quite stable still. He said, so easy. In this way, it's so easy. You don't have to tighten up and, press into the alignment, sink the elbow down and then push the elbow behind the fist. You don't need that. So I'm just relaxing here, I'm aiming there. I mean, it's quite ridiculous how effortless it is, right? And can you see, and I urge you guys to have a look at, those of you that are into Chinese Kung Fu, have a look to see if, sometimes you see some videos and someone says, okay, this is my chi, and they put a finger on someone's body and the person flies away, there's no, if you slow it down, there is no transmission of force. There is that kind of stuff only works with a compliant, very sensitive and compliant partner. If there is not a, so it's not that, it's like usually it's the person's student. Their students is just waiting and aligning, it's like the student harmonizes the way they push in such a way that as soon as the teacher intends something, the student bounces off. There's almost a connection happening. Therefore, there's no actual real transmission of force. It's almost like a dance together. This is different. I mean, if you slow it down, you can see. Have a look at his body, the activity in his body. Even though you can see there's actual force transmission. It's not 𝐵𝐵𝐷's not just jumping away. So not like this, you see? There it's tightening. There it's pushing down, and imagine the shoulders compressed like that, not like this. This is open, free moving. He said Qigong said when you drop the shoulders, the elbow, don't push it down, don't sink it down. Don't sink it down muscularly, because when you, let me just stop this. When you compress, so you got to think about the shoulder, you got to think about spaciousness. We want the condition of the body to be like a open, it's like a 3D spider web. Or it's like a basketball that's pumped. When the basketball is pumped, it can take pressure from any direction. That's why it can bounce. You want that condition, that buoyant, floating, expanded, internally pressurized kind of condition with the body. So therefore, if you sink your elbow's shoulder down to your elbow, then there is a compression happening downward, right? It's called shoulder depression. If you retract your shoulders, then the scapulars at the back, like sometimes people say retract your shoulders back when you do a pull-up, or when you do a row, or when you do a movement, like some personal trainers say that. That is just getting you to, if the person's shoulders stable and flat and they retract their shoulder like that, yes, it's going to work on those muscles, but it's teaching your body, it's compressing your shoulders. And if it's too far up like this, someone that's holding their shoulders up, generally speaking, I would say with my experience of teaching for, now I've been teaching for 23 years plus. So with my experience of working with so many different bodies, generally people's shoulders are rounded forward and like this, and they have thoracic, they're kyphotic and they have thoracic tension. Sometimes you get some people where they have depressed shoulders, so the shoulders are too far down, but generally it's up like this. So generally speaking, that when they release the person's shoulder, when they rise up the spine and open up, the person's shoulder there will be a down and lateral expansion, but there will be a down and lateral expansion. Very, very seldom, well, very rarely do I come across people that have depressed shoulders, so their shoulders need to actually come up and out a little bit as the thoracic extends. So to get space in all of these areas as well. But that's more advanced stuff. But have a look at this. Now look at the position that he's in. I mean, it's quite ridiculous. You can try this, right? And look at this lady's name is Ada. She's very good she's very relaxed in this lineage. Let me see if I can slow it down a little bit before we play it. Okay, so have a look at his shoulders. I mean, hopefully by now you guys can see. So here he's demonstrating, scapular stability, shoulder stability, but mobility in the ball joint. Look at the effect on my body. Effortless. Yeah, there's some more footage from 1991. This guy, Rob Carey, his name is, a friend of mine, and he puts lots of these great videos. Now look at Rob. Rob's his shoulders up, I'm sure, are not like this anymore. This is, what is it, 34 years ago. And this is the most common posture that we get. Now my posture, if you look at the 2005 footage, when I first arrived to Hong Kong, my shoulders was like this, like Rob's as well. Where there is this kyphosis. So if you imagine the thoracic spine is kyphotic, like this, too much curve this way, and then there is this scapular winging, right? That what we saw in the picture in the beginning of this video, and because of that, it's very hard, even though we can get relaxation in the front in the ball joint here, because of the lack of stability from the shoulder blade from the back. It's very hard to connect the body in that internal way. Of course you could, and Rob, even here in 1991, I mean, there's hours and hours of this footage. Rob's actually very good. He's a great martial artist, and his 𝐶𝐸 is very good. He can hit hard. He can move very well. So you can sort of externally connect the body with the arm through timing the body and timing the movement of the body and timing the movement of the arm together at the same time. Like, let's say the way you would do in boxing, and still produce great amount of power. But what I'm talking about is internal connectivity, which eventually leads to flow of intention coming through, flow of later on energy coming through. If there is scapular winging, that's not going to be possible to achieve those levels. So now watch the contrast. I know the footage is blurry, but have a look at the back. He's saying, don't do this, don't press down, don't. You see what he showed with his scapula there? Let me just show that again. This is important because it shows contrast. So don't do this. Look at the instability he showed. And then he shows the stability, and look at the effect that he had on Rob's body. Again, you can go back and replay these footage and slow it down on YouTube, so you can start to see. So here he's working with the front of Rob's shoulders. He's trying to get him to relax the ball joint and not press down with the forearm. That's another thing. When pressing down with the forearm, again here, look at see, there's no pressing. Look at what he's doing there. He's not pressing. He's not pulling down with the forearm. It's all controlled with the stabilization of the shoulder. Not this, you see? Instability. There, he's showing instability at the shoulders. There's that stability. And you can see the results, right? And actually, this is a good contrast with what 𝐂𝐡𝐮 doing and what. So have a look at here. This guy is, I mean, big and strong, but can you see the? I mean, look, we obviously can't see his scapula, right? But okay, let's focus on this a little bit. We can't see his scapula, but so even though his ball joint is moving, because even though we can't see the scapula, you can see how it's unstable. I mean, again, big and strong guy, but he doesn't have that kind of holistic, stable, this kind of force. It's like when the force, when everything's stable and connected, and even a little bit of movement will create a lot of effect. Whereas if it's unstable, even if you move more or you add more power and speed, there is still going to be a leak in this area. So you won't have that you know, this term 𝐂𝐡𝐮 will use is 𝐴𝐵𝐷𝐷. It will say 𝐵𝐵𝐷𝐷. Your force doesn't enter. 𝐴𝐵 means enter, 𝐷𝐷 means it cannot. So it means your force cannot enter. As soon as your force touches my force, it bounces back type of thing. Because you have that, again, that interconnected elasticity, holistic elasticity, and you have that with your intention, you have that projection forward. This is even if you don't have energy flow yet. This is just talking about using the body's fascial system, which is a prerequisite to energy flow, energy works within the internal arts. But we can see the lack of stability in the scapula results in this type of movement, or this type of force. And look at the contrast in what 𝐂𝐡𝐮 doing. Look at the stability in the scapula. I hope by this stage you can start to see now. You can see that I can see the relativity of his scapula and his rib cage as well. And therefore, when he moves it forward, I mean, he let it go. If he didn't let it go, if he pushed back, it would have bounced off. He just he opened up his arm, so he got here. And look at what he just did with his. Sorry, I know I keep starting, but this stuff is important. Look at his thoracic spine. So here, yeah, see how you have to rise up. You have to expand your thoracic, expand laterally, not just laterally, but 3D like a balloon. Expand your rib cage, and then the scapula. So here's myself. This is 2006. This is when we used to train in his house. Look at, so same as Rob's scapula with the lack of stability. So here he's trying to get me to relax my ball joint and keep my arm straight and bring it down. Have a look at the lack of stability in my scapula. Can you see here? And because of that, even though I'm trying my best to relax here, it's just not enough. And there's not just instability in my scapula, there's instability in my thoracic spine too. You see that? That last one, as soon as my arm went down, my scapula went up in a kind of winging way. Have a look at that. When my arm moves down, look, you see that? That's not good. Oh, that's better. That's better. That's more stable. A little bit that unstable, yeah, stable. So at the last moment when it worked, there was a little bit of stability. Now here, this is probably about 4 or 5 years later from that last footage. So I'm in better condition, but this is a much harder movement. The arm is held up. Bit more stable, can you see? But still not good enough for this movement. No, I couldn't move it. Now look at his one. Not like this. It said you're doing this. Now watch his shoulder, watch his area. Can you see? Zero leak. Now there, if I was, so I'm talking about something that I couldn't do and he did very well here, but if I was to pick on it, I would say maybe the lower part, the spine here, could open up a little bit more. A lot of times, Master Choi would demonstrate, so when he would, especially with this kind of stuff here, he's just demonstrating the open condition in the shoulders, right? So he's not really activating, he's activating the rest of the body because the body is an interconnected thing, but he's activating, like let's say from here down, from the waist down, or from the, from the lumbar spine down, or middle of the thoracic down. He's sort of activating it just enough to stabilize the shoulder, because he was so good that he had he had so much control of his body that he could just expand, let's say, just this area, the area that was needed to perform the movement. And sometimes he would do something on someone, let's say on me now, and it works, and then that person or another person would hold much harder, a bigger person would come and hold harder, and he would do the same thing, and it wouldn't have the same effect. And then he would say, oh, hold on, let me really put it on now, let me add my lower half. And I remember when he used to say that, I was like, why didn't you do it like 100%? Why didn't you do it perfect from the beginning? But now I understand that it was just demonstrating whatever he wanted to demonstrate, whatever he wanted to teach. He wanted to highlight, okay, shoulder stability. Just like earlier in that footage where I said, the force was leaking on his right hip in the first movement, and he did the movement again for the second time, and it didn't leak. Because sometimes, again, no one's perfect. Sometimes he was just lazy. He wouldn't put it on. He wouldn't put the whole body on. And sometimes, again, no one's perfect. So he would do it again, and he would do it. He would improve it the second time. So here, what I was getting at is this area could expand more. Have a look. I'll stop it, but at this point. So this is from here to here is so open. You very, very rarely do you see Master Choi's ribs and back like this. Usually it's straight like that, right? But again, he could just do it again, but you see the result that it has. I'll play it one more time full speed. Still, just with this was enough to get that result on me. Now, if he opened up this and then added more, and then this is not even him using the limb or the energy. This is, again, these videos are picked to show biomechanical power. That's the subject we're on. You can see the force transmission into my body, right? Now here the spine looks more open in that area. Yeah. You see, here the spine here looks open. So he's just saying that here, he's getting us to touch his muscles to show how soft it is, like how relaxed it is. But look at his scapula. Okay, now there what happened. Okay, did you see that? I mean, this guy, he sent this guy flying, but did you notice that there was a little kick back into his own body as well? With me, there was no kickback or force into his body. Here, little kick back to his body, and he took a little back step, right? So these little details is cool to look at and cool to see. There's Chris again, the guy that I was talking about. He did with the very open shoulders. Chris was very relaxed. His muscles were very, very relaxed. So now here, he said it's a lot more stronger. Look how stable that is. This gentleman never held politely as well. He would, he would try to stop you. He would hold strong. He's not a big guy, but he was strong. But he was one of those guys that he wouldn't just give it to you. Some people would just hold lighter and go with it a little bit if they felt the change. But this guy would hold proper. He said here, 𝐂𝐡𝐮 was like, if you touch it, here is not soft. He said you can't move it down now because it's tight and not open. Yeah, so here he's there, that opened up. So that ball joint opened up. If you got that stability, he said now the muscle's soft. You can see it, right? Let's look at that again. That was a good one. And I won't blab. I'll just stay quiet. Have a look. Very good. That is a good angle to see what's happening on the shoulders. Okay, now we go to some videos on when it doesn't work. So sometimes for all of us, there was times, especially for myself in the beginning, the first year, and these guys, they were not they were not students of Master Choi. They weren't regular students of Master Choi. They would just visit once a year, a couple of times a year for a week or something. So now look at that. Even though when Master Choi here, this guy is he's actually quite skillful now. He was quite new to Wing Chun in these years, but he's continued and he's actually quite good now. But if you have a look now, when Master Choi is trying to relax him and help him to open up the spine, look at the difference between the effect in his body with the same teacher, same instruction, and how his body reacts to the instruction compared to the last video, Chris. You know, Chris, everything was just settled already and relaxed, so Master Cho could work very subtly with him, right? Now, if you look at this, even when he's trying to get him to relax his shoulders, etc., you can see how unstable the whole body is. See, the spine's like wobbly, and see? So because of the instability of the thoracic, the scapula is not stable, and he's trying to help him to relax and open his ball joint so he can rotate it, and he just can't. That's just this is a relatively easy movement as well, just bringing your arm back from here, not from there coming down, right? And he just can't. You can see there's no support from the back. Even though he's relaxing the front for him a little bit, there's just simply no support from the back. Therefore, it's not enough just to move this bone. Even if you relax the ball joint to move the humerus, if you don't have the support of the body, then it won't work. The person has too much leverage on it. They'll just pull you and disconnect your arm from your body, and you won't have power. Same situation here. Can you see the stability? The lack of stability? So for this guy now, look, his body actually moves the other way. So he pushes, as he pushes down, the force bounces back and his spine moves laterally. So because this is where the spine is extremely important, it's important to get that stability in the spine. So it's very important to have that stability in the spine before we can get the stability in the shoulder girdle. So that's the core, the inner core, not the six pack, but the core, the fascial connection. The pelvis is extremely important. The pelvic floor is extremely important. The pelvic floor diaphragm, that whole area to keep internally pressurize and support the rib cage, and then have that stability of the rib cage, and then to be able to decompress the spine, rib cage, then the shoulder can start to open up and can have that power. Of course, the feet and the legs are very important. If your hips are not relaxed, if your knees are not springy, relaxed, even if your feet are tight or floppily, inactive, then your plantar fascia isn't active and you don't get that elasticity, then, whether it's upstream from the shoulder or downstream from the shoulder, everything needs to be supporting each other to get that kind of buoyancy, that kind of elastic power, right? But here we're just isolating the shoulder area because that's what the video is about.
Project that, so stop. Yeah. Now I'm going to do this, and then slowly now.
So here you can see my shoulder is quite stable. This is recent. This is like. So he's going to pull down on my arm, perpendicular, pull down. I'm marching on the spot to show that I'm not using ground force as well. Now here it's like, so not this, but more like that. So you can see you can get a lot of power.
So feel the difference of power, instead of sort of like a pushing force, like that, which if I use momentum I can get a lot more, but same sort of speed, so boom, wrong, right. Same sort of speed, but you can start to get it. So if I put a little bit more into it, relax, this going there, and then
have a look at the shoulder.
Going in, so yeah, wow, goes like that, yeah. So taking that there, yeah, and you can do it from any sort of angle. Doesn't matter, I keep dropping it down like that, I won't hit there because that's in the chest, but you can really drop it in from any angle. As long.
So just breaking that down, what you just did, just in that last inch,
Mm-hmm.
can you just do that again without the power?
Okay.
Because I'll put that at third.
Okay, sure, no worries.
But the idea is what you're...
Okay, so Taigong rise up, so make sure my spine stays open. Don't do it
For the ones that don't know or new to this channel, Taigong is just a Cantonese term for drawing up or contracting lightly at the anus area. Basically the pelvic floor activates, which pelvic floor is connected to the diaphragm being a postural muscle. So it's not a tightness, but there is an activation of the core to create inner stability of the pelvis and the spine, and then to be able to release and relax the muscles around that area, the sort of exterior muscles, it's to tap into the fascial system more rather than the disconnected muscular brute force system. And then from there we are able then to, because the base is relaxed from the base of the spine, from the tailbone sacrum, we're able to decompress upwards through the spine, rib cage, etc. This was taken before COVID, so this was 2019, I believe, 18, 19.
I'm going to get my heart ready. So I'm just literally going from A to B to here. I'm in my mind, I know exactly where I'm going. It's not like I'm just swinging from here and letting it catch you on the way. I'm exactly wanting to stop here, you know. And within that takeoff, rise up, shoulders are open, and I'm going from A to B. It just happens you're in my path. So I just go a centimeter inside you, and you know, so even doing it lightly, it's different to this. This is sort of a momentum-based thing, and I have to...
So the momentum, so what I'm talking about is not that type of loose relaxation where you're just throwing it, which it's still devastating power, you know, that kind of like Muay Thai kind of like throw, like a hook or something, you're like swinging a baseball bat, still like, it's still knockout power if you're looking for power. But here we're looking at, and you could see when I'm demonstrating with that floppy weight, because I'm doing it, I'm trying to highlight that sort of point, that force will bounce back. It shows the instability of the shoulder compared to when I make that change, and you can see a bit more stability in that area.
Do something else.
Using your torso.
And also this has been thrown. It's you're in my way, yes, but if you suddenly jump out of the way, it's sort of just catching you like a hook, like that. It's catching you on the way. Whereas here, I make my destination a centimeter inside your arm. So if you do move out of the way, anytime, at any point.
And this is a different subject. So this is about, then we're talking about how to, once the body is interconnected in that condition, how to project, use the intention to project to get that kind of darting force, which is a unique force. And that's how we do the 1-inch punch in Wing Chun, to make the force go inside to the target rather than just, it's like a difference between a force in a nail gun compared to a hammer. You know, so
it's got to stop exactly here, because I've told it to come from here to here. It's not a throw. Yeah. Yes.
And what's happening up the back here when you do that?
All of this must be open and relaxed. It feels, to me, it feels like as the spine is rising, and this goes with any arm movement or any leg movement. As the spine is open, you can feel it. So if you feel my spine here with that one arm.
So see if you can see that.
Put your hand here with the other
difference in the scapular.
So sort of like this. So let's say not like this.
So have a look at what I do with my spine.
It feels like that.
Yeah. So there was a
so
drop.
now the joint is free to move.
The spine rises up.
This
opens up.
You know, this is what this is. Yeah. So if I'm doing this.
So not this.
That's not good, right? Compared to.
You see the spine rise up, shoulder opens up and down.
I want to come toward you, if I want to bring you in, it's got power, you know, so this is opened up. And so it's not just using this joint, it's using the entire girdle. Yes, it's using the whole thing. Then if I could, at a high level, we relax here, then we can use this whole piece, we start to tap into the whole body. Yeah. Otherwise, if someone can only use this area.
And that's what I was talking about. The stability that we get in the shoulders, we get in the pelvis later on for kicking. You would have seen the videos of when I do like the very close range kicking. People say that's BS, that would never work, you wouldn't be able to do it like that, But once they feel it, they're like, okay, yeah, that's there's something in that, there's something different in that. And that's the same thing. In that pelvis area, we do the same kind of stabilization through the sacroiliac joints from the back, and through the hip joints, the ball joints of the hips in the front. So
as soon as the
same thing everywhere.
Bounce back. Later on, we're going to do body movement and a little bit of stepping. That's going to make things a bit more difficult, but if you're doing it right, it's going to make it a lot more powerful. That's the difference between 𝐶𝐻 and 𝐶𝐻. So right now, we're just talking about 𝐶𝐻 control. Opening the joints and moving, yeah.
That force is intense.
Imagine you doing it. Imagine him doing it.
Oh.
Imagine someone your size, because I'm 70 kilos.
The challenge is us guys, there's so much to turn off.
Yeah, there's so much, because you can produce power anyway, so that is one point.
So we'll sort of leave it there. But what the last thing I was saying there was, even if someone can stabilize their shoulders okay to be able to get some good force, if they don't have the connectivity and the support of the rest of the body, like let's say if the force leaks at the lumbar spine or at the pelvis or at the hips or something like that, then as soon as they move, first of all, they can't produce the same amount of power, even if their shoulder's stable. But as soon as they step or they start moving around, then that would be a bounce back, there will be a kickback. Basically, the idea is not to get any leak or blockages within the body. Anywhere, if there's a blockage, the force will sort of get locked there, the force can't travel through and you'll bounce back, there'll be a kickback. If it's a floppiness, like a scapular winging, then the force leaks in that area. Then you won't get that kind of force that was being demonstrated. So I hope that that makes things more clear. Guys, don't forget to subscribe. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe, please. If you got anything to add to this regarding shoulder stability, any questions you may have, any ideas for, if you like this type of videos where I go through different videos, especially my teacher's videos, and I do this type of voiceover stuff to explain, let me know what you want to see in the comments and I'll do my best to get to it. Cool. Cheers, guys.